This week on LTC News, a town hall meeting with Senator Warren. We'll take you out to the ballpark.
It's their first taste of being a professional baseball player, so kind of helping them through that adjustment.
And a Lowell High School update.
Maybe the only way is, as school
Stay with us.
Gendron said, of bringing everybody together again.
Welcome to LTC News. I'm your news anchor, Alanna Flood. People lined up to get a seat on Friday, June 23rd, when Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren came to Lowell to hold a town hall meeting at UTEC. They asked questions of the senator and learned about the Democratic Party's current priorities in Congress. Topics covered included services for veterans, college debt, the Republican health care bill, and its tax cuts, and education. She expressed optimism for the progressive agenda.
You go out and do polls across America, and it turns out that by 2-to-1, Americans across this country, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, they embrace those same notions. Raising the minimum wage, expanding Social Security, making college affordable for our kids. The progressive agenda is America's agenda.
In July and August, the City Council will meet every other week. They did meet this week, so Brian Dorrington, LTC Director of Municipal Programming, brings us his City Council synopsis.
Hello and welcome to the City Council synopsis for the meeting of June 27th, 2017. For the first time in months, there was virtually no mention of the high school project. The meeting returned to its normal self, with tumbleweeds passing through the vacant audience section. Crickets could actually be heard as the shouting ceased, and the length of the meeting returned to that of a single feature film, which allowed all of the children and small animals watching on TV to get to sleep before their bedtime. Aren't they cute? City Manager Kevin Murphy announced an agreement had been reached to keep the Spinners in Lowell for a minimum of 10 more years. Manager Murphy gave much of the credit to the Lowell financial advisor, Bob Healy, for his handling of the negotiations. The Spinners will lease LeLacheur Park for $192,000 a year for the next 10 years. The city will invest $1.6 million in upfront capital improvements, which will be recouped over the term of the lease. UMass Lowell also agreed to stay for 10 years and will pay $85,000 upfront for improvements, as well as $10,000 a year for upgrades. In the agreement, it states that the Spinners will still collect money from advertising within the ballpark, but the city will now be able to make money from commercial advertising outside of the stadium. The Spinners' ownership plans to add luxury box seating to the stadium, which will allow the city to collect money from the rental charges of those luxury boxes. The council was in agreement that this was a great deal for the city and voted 9-0 to approve it. Nick Sparrows of the soon-to-be Lowell Burger Company requested permission for an overhanging sign. This prompted City Manager Murphy to inform the public of this new restaurant. He said Lowell Burger Company is going to be located downtown where Bishop's used to be. They'll be offering specialty burgers and craft beers. I know this isn't the hard-hitting news you're used to on City Council Synopsis, but the 4th of July is coming up, and nothing is more American than grilling up a sandwich named after a German city and beer with alcohol percentages in the double digits, brewed by men with really, really long beards. Well, that's all I have for you today. Just a reminder, the council is currently on its summer schedule and will meet every other week, which will run from now until September. Our news broadcasts will also run every other week to coincide with the meetings. Remember, you can watch the meetings on LTC Channel 99 or on demand anytime at ltc.org. Thanks for watching and be swell.
It's a reunion of sorts for the Lowell Spinners. General Manager Sean Smith is back in action at the ballpark office after being gone for 11 years. He says that the business of baseball has changed and that employing big data and social media are just some of the strategies the organization uses to keep the fans happy.
This is a homecoming for me. I was the general manager of the team for 10 years, about 11 years ago. This is a wonderful time to be a part of recreating history here in Lowell, Massachusetts. This is a great asset in this community. We have a great staff, we have great fans, great corporate partners here, and they deserve the best. They deserve our commitment, they deserve our accountability to them, and that's what helps drives us every day to make this bigger than ever before. Baseball has changed, and it will continue to change and evolve. And if our business does not change and evolve, then we will not be successful. So it's important to make certain that our organization adapts. We adapt to using big data, digital media, social media. We certainly have a great understanding of where the majority of our fans come from in their ticket purchasing patterns. And we also understand our areas of opportunity on how we can market and where we should market and what sort of messaging we could have for different types of clientele. When you come to a game here at night, there's a text to win contest where you can win a variety of great prizes or certainly some great experiences. But what that enables us to do is find out which the most avid fans of ours are interacting with us and want more from us. And what greater fan could you have than one that's telling you exactly what they want?
With the new long-term lease in place, plans for updating the facility are beginning to take shape.
We just signed a 10-year extension on our lease here, where we're going to have a new playing surface all the way down to the drainage and built it right back up. We're going to have brand new LED lights. We'll be the first short season affiliate in the country to have energy efficient light emitting diodes is what LED stands for. We'll have those for the start of next season. And then we're also going to build a party deck. It's going to be down the right field line, turning the corner at section 102 and making its way towards the foul pole. It's going to be a multi-tiered party deck that fans can enjoy and experience here like they've never been able to do before.
In the end, it's all about the game being played inside the white lines and those that coach them along the way.
So when you have a variety of men that come here, not only from the Gulf Coast League, but also as the draft choices are signing, this becomes a big hub for the Boston Red Sox to come and evaluate their talent using video technology, utilizing the good old-fashioned scouting technology, the two eyes that the good Lord has given us, and also TrackMan, which is a data function that we have that the Red Sox use to track the spin on the ball and the velocity and a variety of different patterns of what they can learn from that from a fielding and also from a hitting perspective.
We get a lot of guys coming in from the draft, so it's their first taste of being a professional baseball player, so kind of helping them through that adjustment.
Last year we had 7 major leaguers that played for the Spinners, and it manifests itself in a variety of ways. You may have guys that are actually playing for us in a game. You may have guys that are throwing a bullpen off on the side. You may have guys that are just coming in and throwing for an inning. You may have guys that are here for multiple weeks at a time. So our fans never know who they're going to see. I would say the major key to our success from a baseball standpoint is hyper-local, and the hyper-local point for us is our coaching staff. Our manager, Iggy Suarez, our pitching coach, Lance Carter, and also our hitting coach, Nate Spears. But when you talk from the team perspective, the name in the front is much more important to us than the name in the back. In fact, we don't wear names in the back of our jersey, and that's by my choice. The name Spinners, the name Lowell is the most important part. The players certainly earn the right to have their name said over the PA system on the video board, and they certainly will earn the right to have their name be known more throughout Red Sox Nation.
I know they have a dream, a goal set of making it to the big leagues, and our job as a staff is to help them get there or put them in a position where they can succeed and move forward towards that goal.
You know, I look at these guys as my kids. I mean, they're young enough to be my children. And our job, as it is with us as parents, is to help our kids develop to move on without us. Our responsibility here is outside of the white lines. I look forward to the day that they each leave.
If you can't make it to the field, you can watch some of the games live right here on LTC Channel 8. Check ltc.org for a schedule of the games we'll be carrying. The siting of the high school has been such an all-consuming topic here in the city. We wanted to give you a recap of where we are and what to expect going forward. After the city held many special meetings, inviting comments from all of the city's residents, it came down to a vote at the City Council meeting on June 20th. The council chambers were filled with residents waiting their turn to speak for their choice of either Cawley or downtown for the new high school. After 6 hours of passionate comments, the council voted 5-4 in favor of a brand new building at the Cawley Stadium site. The decision could have ended there. However, some community activists pointed out that the 1922 city charter says that it's the school committee that should decide on the site, not the city council. Social media in Lowell was abuzz with opinions about this turn of events. On Friday the 23rd, the mayor, who was a downtown supporter, called for a special meeting of the school committee so that they could vote. However, on the same day, the city solicitor, Christine O'Connor, weighed in with her legal opinion that in fact the city council did have the authority to choose a site. The special meeting of the school committee did take place on Wednesday, June 28th, and LTC News reporter Sumita Acharya was there.
Hello, I'm standing right outside Lowell City Hall, where tonight there's a special meeting of the school committee going on about the siting of the Lowell High School. It was a brief meeting and they acknowledged that their vote might not make a difference. However, they wanted to go on record with their vote of 5-1 in favor of keeping the high school downtown. Robert Gignac abstained. Gignac is currently a candidate for city council. After the meeting was over, Mayor Kennedy had these remarks.
I'm not sure what the next step will be. I thought it was a good idea for the school committee to take a vote to ask the city council to reconsider the referendum. I don't know if the city council will do that, but I do think that that's probably maybe the only way, as School Committee Member Jackie said, of bringing everybody together again in this city on this issue.
On Wednesday, June 28th, the city submitted its application to the Massachusetts School Building Authority with its recommendation that the school be built at the Colley site. The MSBA will make their decision in August. There's a new face in town. Tom Fitzmaurice has taken charge of the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, an important contributor to economic development in the region. LTC Executive Director Wendy Blum caught up with him on Palmer Street earlier this week.
And welcome to Lowell.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your experience in tourism.
I started my career in sports marketing and worked for a couple universities in Massachusetts and Texas. And then eventually that led me to working for Marriott Corporate. So that was kind of the perfect blend of sports and tourism and hotels. And that eventually led me to working for the CVB in Worcester, where I was working mainly covering the Boston 2024 Olympic bid and making sure that rowing was potentially going to be in Worcester, ironically enough, as well as the DCU Center and the arena were also being represented.
What are some of the differences between tourism in Lowell and in Worcester?
Here in Lowell, we do have the arena downtown, but the lack of hotels is obviously the main difference, but there's certainly some similarities. And I think where they have the convention and arena focus, here we also have a leisure component. You know, we have galleries, we have art, we have museums, we have a lot of vibrancy, the national parks.
What's your vision for what the CVB can do for Lowell?
At the end of the day, we want to increase the fabric of the economic fabric of the city and the region. You know, so we attract travelers that are coming from 50 miles away or more. So that's new money coming into the city that otherwise wouldn't be here. And the same thing goes for events. We're targeting events, whether it's meetings, conventions, sporting events, that drive high economic impact numbers to the hotels, the restaurants, the other establishments downtown, small business owners. So at the end of the day, it's really about bringing new money into the city and providing a high economic impact.
How does tourism affect the local economy?
It provided over 8,000 jobs to the Merrimack Valley. It provided $55 million in state tax revenues, and it provided $27 million in local tax revenue. So it's very important as you see the impact of events and people coming in, and you start to prioritize things and say, how does a pothole get fixed? Taxes. So that's really what it comes down to, is the economic impact of the traveler and the events that we bring in, generating new money and tax revenues. For example, today we had a great opportunity to potentially bid on a large-scale event for the city, and that's working collaboratively with the folks at the Songus Arena, Lowell Memorial Auditorium, the Inn and Conference Center, the hotel, the courtyard right outside on the city. So it's a lot of moving parts, and obviously being creative, that's really the opportunity to capture new groups and new business to come to the city.
What are the changes that are occurring in downtown Lowell that may affect tourism?
Sure. Well, obviously we see a new boutique hotel going in, possibly. That's obviously going to be very, very impactful for not only the vibrancy of downtown, but also the national park. To be able to wake up and walk across the street, that's huge. This is a very unique time to market and sell the city of Lowell, where there's so much development going on. There's new housing, there's new retail. There's going to be a potential large gap in the downtown center with the high school. So, that's kind of, these things work out. There's an amazing opportunity to, kind of reinvent the city almost.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We really look forward to seeing what you make happen here.
Lowell Sun Enterprise editor Chris Scott sat down with school committee member Jackie Doherty the morning after the city council vote on the high school site in this week's Sunspot.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Scott, the Sun Enterprise editor. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Sunspot. With me is Jackie Doherty from the school committee. Thanks for coming in, I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
So you're seeking re-election this fall. This would be, how many terms? I know you had a little break there in the middle.
That's right, I had 4 years, so 2 terms I was off the committee, so I'm finishing my 10th year. Feels good.
Well, good luck with that, with your re-election.
Thank you.
You had a party last Tuesday, a garden party?
Yeah, last Thursday.
Last Thursday, and the weather was good?
Yep, it was beautiful. I put a lot of my heart into my garden in the Highlands. It's been 24 years in the making, and it looked beautiful.
Good.
Although some of the flowers came in a little earlier because of all the rain.
Because of all the rain.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to some serious issues.
Okay.
We're here on a Wednesday, the day after a whole bunch of important votes at City Hall concerning the new high school. Let's start with the school building committee vote. The vote was 9-9. 9 in favor of Cawley, 9 in favor of the downtown. But there was an interesting vote by a member of the school administration, the chief financial officer, Gary Frisch. Why don't you share with us and our viewers your view of how he voted compared to how the superintendent voted, and the former superintendent, and the headmaster, and the other headmaster.
Well, and the 2 school committee members. I have to say I was surprised by the vote. I had not spoken with Mr. Frisch either before, and I have not spoken with him since about the vote, so I really don't understand what prompted him. But as our finance guy, it was particularly startling to me because there are so many unknowns regarding costs with the infrastructure changes and the traffic mitigation issues that are going to have to be dealt with the high school out at Cawley. So it didn't make sense from a finance point of view. I know Mr. Frisch has only been in Lowell in Massachusetts for, I want to say about a year or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's from the Midwest, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So I don't think he's really as, let's say, pulled by the history of our city, our great city, and the wonderful history that we do have. So I don't know that a lot of those implications may have moved him as much, but I would have expected him to be very focused on the money aspect. And I believe, and as the numbers will show, I think that the Cawley is the most expensive option for the high school, and there's still a lot of unknown costs about that. So I was surprised.
Well, you mentioned earlier about the unknown costs, but let's just talk about the costs that we do know. Cawley is, by several $1 million, the more expensive of all the options, right?
That's my understanding.
And we hear consistently about other capital needs in the school department, needs for middle schools, needs for renovations and rehabs to other schools that have fallen into disrepair. So it seems like there's a disconnect there, doesn't there?
Well, I think there was a strong, obviously from the vote with the city council, there was a strong feeling that Cawley would provide the better site because it had the opportunity to have a campus with fields. And I understand that. For myself, I want to really get back to what is the most important issue is that we do get a new high school. Because as you mentioned, we have many buildings in need of repair, but the high school had really gone, beyond whatever should have been allowed to happen in terms of the conditions of the building. It absolutely, we need a new high school. That's the bottom line. And if the leaders in the city, the council, the ones who are responsible for maintaining our buildings and asking for the vote of the taxpayers to pay for it, if they feel that Cawley was better, I respectfully disagree. I thought downtown was the better choice, but I will work with them because we have to do what's best for the students, and we need a new high school, definitely.
Just one last question on the Frisch vote from the school building committee event. The vote was 9-9. So if he had voted with the superintendent and all the other educators on the committee that voted for downtown. The vote would have been
10 to 8.
10 to 8, I guess, right, if you do the math. But it still largely would have been, I think, just symbolic.
Split vote, right, a split vote. And I really, like I said, from the beginning, I leaned towards downtown because to me, that central location is very important for our students. 2/3 of our students are local to the downtown area, and all those services are there for those students who most need them. And I think we've made some significant progress as a district with our test scores, with our attendance rates, our graduation rates. Like, we are really moving in the right direction. And much of that work has been focused on our at-risk students. And I'm just afraid that by pulling the school out of the heart of the city, that will disrupt that forward momentum for those families and students. That that distance it's hard to keep them engaged.
That seemed to be an argument that was central to the headmasters, to Brian Martin, that many kids from the lower Highlands, from the Acre, they come across the bridge from Centerville, they come across the Cox Bridge, and they all walk to the high school. And that gave them a sense of comfort and a sense of well-being. So you agree with that too?
Yes, I think, aside from what it's going to do to the Belvedere neighborhood, I think to plunk this huge school in the middle of a residential area is going to be totally disruptive to that part of our city. That was not my primary focus. My primary focus is on those students. And I think that, as an elected member of the school committee, that should be my focus. My responsibility is to provide the best education possible for all our students. Mm-hmm. And, my kids in the Highlands, my daughter used to miss the bus. She'd take the next bus. But you know what? If she didn't want to be late, we had 2 cars in our family. My husband had a car, I had a car. One of us could pop her down to the school. It was a couple of miles down the street. But many of our families don't have 2 cars. The average income in Lowell is $49,000. Mm-hmm. The average income. So you have families that don't have any car. And to just assume, well, the kids can get out there, or if they need to go to the library or Girls Inc. or the boy, or UTech, they can get there. And it's just, I don't think many of our leaders understand the challenges some of these students face, but the headmasters do.
Right. What then do you think is really driving this CAULI push?
Well, I think it started from a very real concern that parents who have children of a certain age who are going to be at the high school during the renovation process were worried. What's the quality of my child's education going to be if their whole 4 years of high school it's under construction? Worried about exposure to the elements during construction, the noise, all those other factors. And I think that's a valid concern, and I think it wasn't until later in the process, and if you watch the school building committee meeting yesterday, the superintendent brought this issue up, that he was also concerned about how the construction was going to be managed. And when we got into a little bit more detail, and I think this would have been ironed out even further with the phase 3 option, that they were going to be able to separate, not have this half of the hall, they're constructing your new classes, while this half is in classrooms, but to really look at isolating the construction areas without needing modules. And so I think it started from that. And then you had many of the coaches and athletic, the coaches, the teachers who teach, gym teachers, things like that, got on board with the CAULI because it was their dream to have your fields right there. But we're losing some of our fields by having the school at CAULI. And then we have to replace them. And we have beautiful state-of-the-art fields out there already. So it's kind of like, messing them up and then having to find other places around the city, which then you'll have to get to. No site was ideal, hands down.
What role do you think the eminent domain issue had?
Well, it started out being a huge issue, right? Then, as we get more information, we realized that there was going to be multiple eminent domain issues at CAULI. in order to widen the roads, put in turnaround signals, put in sidewalks, because now you're going to have 3,500 kids, out in those neighborhoods. So again, it was, and I think for my part, I always lean towards downtown for that one singular reason. I wanted the high school where the kids could have access to it and access to the services. We didn't even talk about the library. What's going to happen to the Pollard Library, which a lot of their funding is based on.
I'd like to just stick on the eminent domain just for a second, if we can.
So it became, it's both sites have eminent domain issues.
But there's been hardly a peep about the eminent domain issues at Coley Stadium.
It didn't really come out until more recently.
Well, it came out on this show about 4 weeks ago when we interviewed Ed Kennedy, who raised it as an issue, but it was kind of, everyone blew it off, and we focused on the doctor's building. The city focused on the doctor's building and how unfair it would be to take the doctor's building. Now, the doctors, they were active. They hired a politically connected lawyer, the former city manager, you know that. But now there's this guy that owns Milan Pizza out on Route 38 that appears his business will be impacted.
There were 3 people representing businesses who would be impacted out at the Coley site last night who spoke. Milan Pizza was one of them.
So isn't that hypocritical for all this attention to be focused on the doctors and from city councilors, we can't take their property, but we can conceivably take the property out on Roger Street?
Well, those who voted for the Coley site, we had 5 of them who voted for Coley, didn't really address last night.
Jackie, we only have 2 minutes left.
Wow, okay, sorry.
That's
That went
okay.
by fast.
No, so our producer, Caroline Gallagher, said we only have 2 minutes left. I just want to also get you on, have you talk about the search for a new high school headmaster. I know you think very highly of Brian Martin. You think he's done a terrific job there. I don't disagree. There was the curriculum director there that advanced to the finalist round with 2 other finalists. That was Amy McLeod. But then the superintendent decided to throw it wide open again to try to get someone of diversity and looking nationally. What do you think of all of that?
I think we should try to get someone of diversity, and we should have looked nationally to begin with. I'm really not sure why we didn't throw a wider net from the outset. I have to say 2 things. First, we have as a school committee member, this is totally the superintendent's call. Who he chooses, that's his area of responsibility. But given that, we also, I think, there wasn't a lot of information for us in terms of what's the timeline, what's the plan. Like, we really I would have appreciated more. And I know that one of my colleagues, Connie Martin, had a motion asking for, just keeping us in the loop about the plan.
Do you feel that you were not kept in the
I don't feel like I was kept in the loop. No, more once we had that motion and we all, agreed with Ms. Martin. We'd like to hear, who's on the task force, what's the timeline. But that aside, I support the superintendent in making an effort to really look at all the talent out there and see if we can get, a rock star leader for our high
Last question.
school.
Do you think Amy McLeod should have been given a shot?
I assume she was given a shot. She went through the process.
Well, she went through the process, but then they decided to throw it wide open again. Do you think they should have just given the in-house candidate an opportunity?
Well, as someone who wasn't there for those interviews, I don't feel that I'm really qualified to answer that. I trust that there was a team the task force that the superintendent gathered, and the superintendent himself and his leadership team. So I'm kind of trusting his judgment on that.
Fair enough, Jackie. I want to thank you for coming in again.
Thank you,
13
Chris.
minutes went fast.
That's it for this edition of LTC News. We'll be back with a new episode on July 13th. In the meantime, you can find us on LTC channels 8 and 99, on the web at ltc.org, or get the link each week on Facebook. I'm Alanna Flood. Thanks for joining us.